is a great rebellion going on against who? Against David, yes. Who are the two chiefs? Absalom, who is who? David's son. And Ahithophel, who is David's counselors. Boy, folks, it is tough when your own close people turn on you, isn't it? That is the worst rebellion that you could possibly imagine. You can understand your enemies hating you. You can understand your enemies coming against you. But your own friends and your own family, and that is exactly what David is suffering. David has left the city of Jerusalem, and these two men have gone into the city of Jerusalem and have overtaken the throne. And what evil act has Absalom committed? Yes, he slept with 10 of David's concubines in a tent on the roof of the palace. Wow. Why did he do that? Huh? Okay, number one, he did it because he was counseled to do that by Ahithophel, wasn't he? Why would Ahithophel make such a counsel, though? Why would he encourage David to do that? Okay, to show and establish he was the new king, to put hatred in the heart of David against him, and he didn't know this, but he was fulfilling the word of the living God relative to David's punishment, wasn't he? David had committed adultery in secret. God said, I will punish you by having one of your own house commit adultery with your wives in what? In public. Okay, and so that's why it was done. Very, very interesting. And that's where we kind of left off last week. With David on the run, these two men are now in Jerusalem in charge. Who wants to give us a very brief outline of 2 Samuel 17, 1 through 14? All right, Kevin. Okay, the counsel of Ahithophel. Number 2.
Contradicting advice of Hushai.
The what is it? Contradicting advice of Hushai. Oh, don't fall, man.
Thank you.
Boy. That's rough. Scared me. All right, number 3.
The calamity sought by the Lord on Absalom.
Ooh, the calamity sought by the Lord on Absalom. I know why I wanted to give that outline. Did y'all hear those C's? I heard those C's. I sure did. Okay, anybody else? Nobody else after that. I see a so good outline, nobody wants to follow him. It's unbelievable. Mine was close. The counsel of Ahithophel, the counter of Hushai, the commendation of Hushai's counsel. So let's get into the chapter. This is an interesting chapter, folks. Okay. Number 2. How many men did Ahithophel want to choose to pursue after David? 12,000. Moreover, Ahithophel said unto Absalom, let me now choose out 12,000 men, folks. Is that a lot of men? Yeah. Now, guys, let me tell you what. David has not left Jerusalem with 12,000 people following him. Okay? He's got some servants. He's got his household. He's got some faithful friends that are around him. He's got his mighty men that are there, 30 of those individuals, maybe a few others. But he does not have just this huge, massive entourage, and especially an army fully, totally surrounding him as he departs. And now, here is Ahithophel. Let's go after him. Get 12,000 men together, and we'll pursue David. Wow, what a large number. Well, Ahithophel did. Okay, didn't he? Okay, Ahithophel did. David's just a what? He's just a human, isn't he? Okay, and he's a weak human right now, isn't he? And it's pretty tough. When did he want to pursue David? That night. And I will arise and pursue after David, watch this night. I wrote down some things about this night. This was the night of David's flight. This was the night of David's deep sorrow. This was the night of David's confusion and despair. This was the night of David's greatest weakness. Okay, folks, he is what? He is vulnerable right now, isn't he? You know, when you finally put your enemy to flight, your enemy has admitted what? I'm in trouble here. I'm not strong. I'm not going to be able to accomplish this right now. I'm not going to be able to overcome. I've got to pull out, and I've got to what? I've at least got to regroup, don't I? What condition did he believe David to be in? Yes, and I will come upon him while he is weary and weak-minded. Man, I wrote down this. David was shocked by his son's rebellion. He was surprised by his friend's betrayal, and he was weary due to grief and the loss of a night's sleep. Folks, when you lose a whole night of sleep, does that kind of impact you? It does, doesn't it? I don't care how old or young you are, you lose a whole night of sleep. See, that was one of the things that contributed to the horribleness of Jesus' death. He was up all night, wasn't he? Going through those trials before the Jews. And when you lose sleep, it really causes a lot of problems. What would his coming upon David cause David to be? Afraid. And I will make him afraid. Fear is what? How do you define fear? Okay, a worry. Okay, but is it more than just worry? I mean, I've worried and not been afraid, haven't you? Scared, terrorized. Okay. Emotional vulnerability, okay? Folks, it is one dictionary defined as a negative emotion that is aroused in the heart of man due to a real or perceived threat, okay? There's something that is threatening you, okay? And was David threatened right now? Oh yeah, he'd already been threatened, hadn't he? Or he wouldn't have left his kingdom. And a large army pursuing after him, 12,000 individuals pursuing after him. Would that strike even more fear into his heart? Absolutely. Absolutely. What would his coming upon David call the people who were with David to do? Yes. And all the people that are with him shall flee. Does it seem as though Ahithophel is a warrior, a fighting man? Seems like it, doesn't it? Remember, he was David's what? Chief counselor. Chief counselor. Okay, folks, these guys know war strategy. These guys know vulnerability. These guys know how to fight. These guys know how to go against an opposition. He had been counseling David for years and years and years and years. Had David been pretty successful in his battles? Yeah. It wasn't all due to David. It was due to what? Some of his counselors and those that were around him. Ahithophel being one of those. So Ahithophel is pretty smart about what's happening and what's going to transpire. Does he know people? Yeah. Folks, people aren't always loyal, right? When you have to choose you or David, who do you choose? You. Right? You know, now a few people would choose who? David, because they were loyal, because they were honorable. But folks, a lot of times when there is a choice between me or someone else, guess who I choose? Why? It's just that simple. Okay? And Ahithophel knew that. Now watch this. Who would be the only one Ahithophel would smite? The king. And I will smite the king only. Isn't that something? I'm going to send 12,000 out. What's the purpose for that? Fear, right? Fear is the reason to send so many. Okay? But I'm only going to kill how many? One. I'm only going to kill David. If the people fled from David, they could find the king all alone. He would be the only one needed to be put to death. The people were loyal to a man. At least that's what Ahithophel thought, right? We're loyal to a man. And if we can put the man to death, then guess what? Loyalty will now move to whom? To the new king. Okay, that's his thinking. Let me ask you this question. Are people always just loyal to the man? We'll talk about it more in just a second. True or false? If just David died, then all of Israel would return to Absalom in peace. Now this is the thinking of Ahithophel. True. And I will bring back all the people unto thee. The man whom thou seekest is as if all returned, so all the people shall be in peace. One man wrote the following: David was the soul of the whole. What does that mean? Yeah, folks, how do we say it? The people were fickle, okay? They're fickle. They'll follow anybody. But the reason they followed David is because David's still what? David's still alive, okay? But the minute you kill him, he's the soul of the people. You will strike terror in the hearts of these individuals. The minute he's dead, they will immediately go back to whom? To Absalom, and the kingdom will be in peace. That's what Absalom's thinking, okay? It was as if the whole nation were the man David. True or false? Sometimes followers blindly follow a man. It's true. Sometimes followers blindly follow a man. But watch this, folks. There are times, however, that people follow a leader not because of the person, but because of the principles he upholds. Okay? You see, there's times when enemies think what? Oh, if we can just kill the man, if we can just get rid of the man, then all this mess will go away and everybody will be okay. Sometimes it runs deeper than who? Sometimes it runs deeper than the man. It runs into principle. It runs into truth. It runs into a lot of things other than just the man. And just because you kill the man doesn't mean the movement's going away. Okay, but now Ahithophel, he believes that Israel is only united around who? One man, David. You get rid of the man, everything will be okay. True or false? The counsel of Ahithophel pleased Absalom. True. And the saying pleased Absalom well. And, watch this, all the leaders, all the elders of Israel. Folks, we're talking about a big meeting that's taking place, aren't we? Okay? It's Absalom, it's Ahithophel, his counselor, and all the who? All the elders have gathered around. What do we need to do right now to end all of this? And so Ahithophel is bringing his wisest counsel that he can give. Go after David, send 12,000 men, kill David, and guess what? Everything will be fine. Right? And the counsel of Ahithophel pleased who? Absalom. Man. I wrote down this statement. You ready? Ahithophel's counsel is very wise. Folks, Ahithophel is an evil man, but Ahithophel is not a stupid man. Does that make sense? There are some very smart people in the world who are just as evil as they can possibly be. Ahithophel's one of them. Now the reason I say that is this. Who was he the counselor for before Absalom? David. The very man that he's now opposed to. Folks, during the time he was David's counselor, was he a wise man? Yeah, he was smart. He had understanding. He had wisdom, or he wouldn't have been in the position that he's in. The only difference is, now his heart is what? Evil. And with Absalom, isn't it? Okay? That's the only difference. He's still a very wise, smart individual. Question 10 baffles me. Okay? Who else did Absalom want to hear? Hushai. Then said Absalom. Now where is this coming from? Right? He's got a meeting, and guess who's not there? Hushai's not there. He's not one of his appointees. He's not one of the council. He's not been appointed as an advisor, is he? And here you got this council, you got your counselor, you got the elders here, you got the king here. You've been given counsel, you love what you've heard, the elders agree, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, then said Absalom, call now Hushai the Archite also, and let us hear likewise what he saith. What? Can you imagine being Ahithophel? What? Let me tell you, if Vic were Ahithophel, Vic would have come unglued. Right there in that meeting, I'd have come, what are you talking about? Get Hushai in here. Who is Hushai? He's David's best friend. Unbelievable. He was commissioned by David to do what? What was he commissioned by David to do? Yes. David said, Hushai, you go back to Jerusalem, listen to him, and you defeat the counsel of who? Of Ahithophel. Absalom didn't know that, did he? But Hushai did, and David did. And who else did? God did, didn't he? Now, I want you to think about that, okay? David tells Hushai, Hushai, I need you to go back. I need you to work your way in the government, and I need you, to the best of your ability, to overthrow the counsel of Ahithophel. What do you think the biggest question would have been in Hushai's mind? Yeah, who said that? Peggy. Did you hear what she said? May have to take her mask off so she can hear. Okay, I'm just kidding with you, Peggy. Peggy said, how? Right? Folks, you know, there's a lot of good things that you can do, but the big question always is what? How? How do you do that? Remember when Hushai came back into the city? What did Absalom say? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Right? I thought you were a friend of who? I thought you were a friend of David. It sounds as though already Hushai is suspect of him, right? So here he's commissioned to do something. You got to overthrow the counsel of Ahithophel, but the question is, how in the world am I going to get in there? I'm not on the court. I'm not an appointee. I'm not an advisor. How in the world am I going to get on there? And all of a sudden he gets a knock on his door. Hey man, come here. Hey Hushai, King wants to see you. This is still the same night of the rebellion. What's my point? Who's working here, folks? God's providential care of David is working. Has a miracle happened? No miracle. No miracle whatsoever has transpired. This is what providence is. And what's amazing to me is you see the providence of God over and over and over happening in Scripture. We talk about the big stories, Joseph and Esther. But don't you see it all the time throughout Scripture? All the time. And right here you see that. How's Hushai going to get in? He's going to get in because the king's going to invite him in. Because he wants to hear what he's got to say. Now here's something interesting too. He wasn't present when Ahithophel gave counsel to Absalom about pursuing David. He had to be called into the king's presence. He hadn't heard what Ahithophel has said. Not yet, anyway. Okay, so it's not like he's been preparing for this particular moment and he's just got this, wonderful plan, right? And all of a sudden, God calls him in. Here's my question. Why did Absalom do this? He had a counselor. He loved the counsel. The elders agreed with him. He could have ended this rebellion that night, possibly, with this great counsel, and yet he stops everything to hear Hushai. Why? Larry?
Great leaders will listen to both sides.
Okay. Great leaders will listen to both sides. Maybe. So he had that much respect for Hushai. You think? Maybe?
He probably knew he had given his daddy good information.
Okay. Maybe experience. Maybe he knew. Hushai was a good counselor and a good friend of my dad and did give him a lot of good advice. Now, why knowing that would he now call Hushai into his presence, though? Do you remember what Hushai said when he came into the city? And he was questioned by Absalom? He said, "Oh no, my loyalties aren't with him. My loyalties are with who? My loyalties are with the king." Who's the king now? Absalom. And he said twice, "God save the king! God save the king!" What did Absalom think? Maybe, just maybe, his loyalties have changed. Right? And he was a good counselor to my dad, so let's listen to him. Or maybe he says this, okay, I know Hushai just came over. He was on my dad's court. He's pledged his loyalty to me. So let's what? Let's test him. Right? Let's test him. Let's just put him to the test and see what he has to say about this situation. I don't know why. The Bible doesn't what? The Bible doesn't tell us. All I do know is this. The providence of God is what? At work. Folks, don't you ever doubt 1 minute of your life that God is not working in your life doing something. You know it? Somewhere behind the scenes, something that you can't see, something that you don't understand, something that you're not even aware of, God can bring to pass, can He not? And He's working it right now in the life of David and in the life of Hushai. If Hushai did not agree with Ahithophel's counsel, what was he exhorted to do? Yes. And when Hushai came to Absalom, Absalom spake unto him, saying, Ahithophel hath spoken after this manner. So now he learns what? Now he learns of Ahithophel's counsel, doesn't he? Now he knows what Ahithophel has said. And he says this, shall we do after this saying? If not, what? Yes, speak thou. You tell us. Man, now I want you to think about that. Right? There's a prophet by the name of Micaiah. And the prophets of Baal had come in to, what's his name now? That's terrible. What's that wicked king? Ahab. And they had given him advice about going to war. Okay? And all of them said what? Oh yeah, Ahab. Go into war and guess what? You're going to win. And for some reason, Ahab did exactly, well, I know why Ahab did what he did. There was another king there, right? And he said, what? I need to hear from another guy. Go get Micaiah and bring him in. Ahab about croaked. He said, you can't bring that man in. He never says anything good about me. Right? Well, they brought him in anyway. Okay? And he gave counsel against Ahab that day. He said, if you go out to battle, you're going to die in battle. Okay, I'm just always amazed by these guys, who they will and won't bring in. But they brought this guy in, and they, not only did he bring him in, not only did he reveal what Ahithophel had said, he said what? If you don't agree with him, just what? You just tell us. You just let us know what you think. Man. Now I did write this. I wonder how Ahithophel felt about that. Don't you? Now guys, Ahithophel is a powerful part of this rebellion, isn't he? He's one of the persons who's helped the overthrow the government. And now he's given his advice. It's good advice. They've admitted it's good advice. And yet, now, this other dude's been brought in, Hushai, who was a friend of David. Don't know who he is, hadn't been in part of this at all. And yet, if you don't agree with him, guess what? Just let us know. Man, that's wonderful, isn't it? He's got free reign to do whatever he wants to do. And Hushai said unto Absalom, the blank that Ahithophel hath given is not good at this blank. What is it? The counsel that Ahithophel hath given is not good at this time. Man. Here's something about Hushai. Is he pretty smart too? We said Ahithophel was smart. Hushai's smart. This is the first time that he's heard anything about this rebellion. About this attack on David, right? This guy's got to be thinking on his feet fast. Okay, this is what Ahithophel wants to do. I've got to overthrow this council. What am I going to tell him? Folks, you've got to be thinking fast on your feet. The very first words out of his mouth is what? This council isn't any good. Not right now, it's not. Amazing. Amazing. What three descriptions did Hushai give of David and his men? Yes, number one, David and his men be mighty men, were they? This is what Mike was talking about a while ago. Folks, David had killed a who? He killed a giant, hadn't he? David had been out and he had killed tons of armies. Why were his mighty men in the position that they were? Because go back and read their stories. Read some of their accomplishments. Read some of the things that they did and the number of people that one individual could kill. Folks, these were warriors, man. So he reminds him, hey, you send your army out against this guy, guess what? They be some mighty men. Number two, what? And they be chafed in their minds. He goes on to explain that. As a bear robbed of her whelps in the field. Kathleen and I, we went to our vacation. We took a dog sled ride, okay? And we were supposed to go to a hot springs that was about 10 miles into the wilderness, okay? We get 6 miles in, and we come to a dead stop. There's about 8 sleds, and then there's about probably 20, maybe 30, what do you call them, ski-mobiles out there, snowmobiles, all dead stopped. Guys on walkie-talkies talking. Say, guys, we can't get past. We can't go on. We're going to be stalled here a while. You want to know why? A moose and her baby were in the trail. Some snowmobilers had come by trying to get pictures and stuff. And guess what they'd done? They'd spooked the mama. The baby had jumped off the trail and went into snow up to its neck. You think mama's happy? Mama moose ain't happy. Okay? And guess what? We didn't go to the hot springs. We turned around, we went home. Adios. Okay? You want to know why? You don't fight a mad mama moose. And guess what you don't do? You don't fight a bear robbed of her what? Of her whelps. David and his men had been robbed of the kingdom. You think they were happy about that? No. They are just as mad as they can be. So he says what? They got mighty men and they're mad. Number 3, what? And your father is a man of war. You need to remember who you're going up against. This isn't what? This isn't some little newbie out there. Okay? This is a man who's fought a lot of battles, and he knows how to fight. True or false? Hushai also said that David would not be with the people. True, he won't be there. And will not lodge with the people. Behold, he is hid now in some pit and in some other place. Folks, if you go, you're going to waste your time. You're not going to what? You're not going to find him. He's smarter than that. If some of Absalom's men were overthrown when they attacked, what did Hushai declare would be said? Oh yes, it will come to pass, when some of them be overthrown at first, that whosoever heareth it will say, there's a slaughter among the people that follow Absalom. Folks, all they had to do is what? Kill 100, kill 500, kill 1,000 of them, and guess what? Oh no, the tables have been turned. This is crazy. We've gone after David. He's mad, he's upset, he's got fighting men, and guess what? We're not going to win this victory. What's that going to do to Absalom's people? They're going to start giving up. They're going to start fleeing, aren't they? They're not going to fight the way they need to. When it was said, what would it cause the hearts of Absalom's valiant men to do? Utterly melt. Uh-oh. We done what? We done messed up. Folks, after they heard all this, what happens? This is good counsel too. Isn't it? And whose counsel did they accept? Folks, they accepted the counsel of Hushai rather than Absalom. Had they gone after David that night, most likely, guess what would have happened? They would have won. Isn't it funny how battles can be won or lost on one decision? One decision. And here, guess who's making the decision? God is, isn't He? He has put Absalom in a place, He's put Hushai in a place where he can influence the king, and he did. And he stopped what could have been the total, complete overthrow of the kingdom of Israel. You think the history of Israel would have been vastly different had Absalom assumed the throne? Oh, yes. Because guess what? It wouldn't have been Solomon who followed after, would it? Man. Good stuff. We're done. Y'all rest a minute, because you got another hour of me. Thank you, sir.